That kid had been hiding his pain all week. Until the coach called his biker brother, he showed up every single day that week with the same look on his face. Calm, focused, ready. Nobody could tell anything was wrong. And that was exactly the point. His name was Ryan, 14 years old. A kid who played basketball like it was the only thing in the world that made sense to him. He was not the loudest one in the gym. He was not the one cracking jokes or pushing people around in the lunch line. He was the quiet one. The one who came early, stayed late, and always had his shoes tied before anyone else even walked through the door. His coach, a man named Coach Ray, had been working with youth players for almost 15 years. He had seen all kinds of kids walk through that gym. Loud ones, shy ones, angry ones, sad ones. He had seen kids who pretended everything was fine when it clearly was not. And after all those years, he had learned something that most people never really sit with. The kids who smile the biggest are sometimes the ones carrying the most. Ryan was smiling. A lot. Maybe too much. It started on Monday. Practice was the same as always. Drills, conditioning, shooting lines. Ryan went through everything without a single complaint. He was sharp. Almost robotic, actually. He moved through every exercise perfectly, hit most of his shots, said the right things when Coach Ray talked to the group. But something felt slightly off to Coach Ray. He could not name it yet. Just a feeling. Like a song playing in another room where you can hear the melody but not make out the words. Tuesday was more of the same. Ryan laughed at the right moments. He helped pick up the cones at the end of practice. He gave a thumbs up when one of his teammates hit a tough three-pointer. Everything looked fine on the surface. But Coach Ray kept watching. By Wednesday, he noticed something small. Ryan was sitting by himself during the water break. Not reading anything. Not on his phone. Just sitting there, staring at the floor. When one of his teammates sat next to him and started talking, Ryan snapped back into that easy, relaxed version of himself. Laughing, nodding, responding. Like flipping a switch. That right there. That was it. That was the thing Coach Ray had been seeing all week but could not quite place. Ryan was performing being okay. He was not being okay. He was performing it. Coach Ray did not say anything to Ryan directly, not yet. He had learned over the years that going straight at a 14-year-old boy with, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" usually made them shut down faster than anything. Boys that age already felt like everything was being watched and judged. The last thing Ryan needed was to feel like he was failing at hiding his pain, the same way he felt like he was failing at whatever was going on at home. Because there was something going on at home. Coach Ray was almost certain of it. Thursday came. Practice was physical that day. Coach Ray pushed them harder than usual. Sprints, contact drills, a lot of back and forth on the court. And somewhere in the middle of a defensive drill, Ryan went for the ball, missed it, and fell hard on the court. Nothing serious. He got up fine. But for just a second, maybe 2 seconds, before he pulled himself together, his face did something it had not done all week. It cracked. His eyes went glassy. His jaw got tight. He blinked fast, the way people do when they are trying not to cry in front of other people. Then he stood up, shook it off, and went right back into the drill like nothing happened. Coach Ray watched the whole thing from the sideline. He said nothing. But inside, he made a decision. That night, after practice, he went through the contact sheet for the team. He scrolled past Ryan's mother's number. He had called her before about scheduling and practice updates. He kept scrolling, found the emergency contact. It was listed as an older brother, 23 years old. A name, a number, and in the notes section next to his name, it just said, "Rides motorcycles, works odd hours, best number to call." Coach Ray sat with his phone for a while. He was not trying to go around the mother. He was not trying to make a big thing out of this. He just had a feeling. Sometimes you call the parent and they already know what is happening, and they are already overwhelmed, and all you end up doing is adding one more weight to someone who is already buckling. And sometimes, a younger kid does not need a parent. He needs someone who is close enough to real life to get it, but old enough to actually do something about it. He dialed the number. It rang 4 times. Then a gruff voice answered. Loud background noise. Wind, maybe. Or a road. Coach Ray introduced himself, kept it simple. Said he was not calling with bad news. Exactly. Said he had just been watching Ryan all week, and something felt off, and he did not want to wait until it became an actual problem. Said he thought Ryan might need somebody to check on him. Not in a formal way, not a sit-down conversation with parents and counselors and all of that. Just somebody who knew him showing up. There was a pause on the other end. Then the brother said, "I'll handle it." That was it. No big speech, no questions about what Coach Ray thought was wrong, no pushback. Just those 3 words, calm and certain, like he had been waiting for someone to give him the okay. Saturday morning, Ryan was in the driveway. He lived in a row of small houses on a narrow street, and most Saturday mornings he went outside early when the neighborhood was still quiet and put up shots on the little hoop mounted above the garage door. It was his way of processing things, just him and the ball and the sound of it bouncing off the pavement. He heard the motorcycle before he saw it. His brother, Danny, pulled up to the curb, cut the engine, and sat there on the bike for a moment without saying anything. Ryan looked at him. Danny looked at Ryan. Then Danny swung his leg off the bike and walked over and picked up the basketball that had rolled toward the curb. He shot it. Missed by a mile. He had never been much of a basketball player. Ryan almost smiled. Danny handed the ball back and said, without making it a big moment, "Coach called me." Ryan's face tightened. He bounced the ball a couple of times, looking at the ground. "I'm fine," he said. "I know," Danny said, and he left it at that. They shot around for a while. Danny was terrible. He bricked shots from 5 feet out. He airballed a layup, which should have been nearly impossible. But he managed it. Ryan started coaching him, pointing to his feet, telling him to follow through. For about 20 minutes it was just that. 2 brothers in a driveway on a quiet Saturday morning. One of them hopelessly bad at basketball, the other one finally, slowly, lowering his guard. Then Ryan started talking. He talked about their father, about how the man had shown back up out of nowhere the previous weekend, unannounced, standing at the door like he had just stepped out for groceries 2 weeks ago, instead of disappearing for almost a year. He talked about how his mother had let him in, how the weekend had gone from tense to worse, how his father had left again by Sunday night, and how the worst part was not the leaving. The worst part was how a small, stupid, embarrassing piece of Ryan had actually believed this time might be different. He had spent the whole week carrying that shame, the shame of hoping, the shame of caring about someone who kept showing him, over and over again, that he did not care back. Danny listened to all of it. He did not try to fix it. He did not tell Ryan how to feel, or give him a speech about growing up and letting go. He just stood there in the driveway and listened. And when Ryan was done talking, Danny said, "You don't have to be okay about that. That's a lot." 4 words. "You don't have to." Ryan looked away, toward the end of the street. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I just didn't want anybody at practice seeing that I was messed up about it." Danny nodded. "Yeah, I get that." Later that afternoon, Danny took him out on the motorcycle. Ryan sat on the back, and they rode through the neighborhood and out onto a long empty road that stretched past some flat farmland on the edge of town. The wind was loud. You could not talk on a motorcycle without effort, which meant for a while there was nothing to say, and that was fine. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone who has been holding everything in is to give them a space where they do not have to perform at all, where they can just exist. When they got back, Ryan climbed off the bike and handed Danny back his extra helmet. Danny started up the engine again, ready to head home. Ryan stood on the curb and said, "How did Coach even notice?" Danny looked at him. Because he was paying attention. He rode off. Ryan stood there for a second, thinking about that. Monday morning. Practice again. Coach Ray was standing at the baseline, watching the team warm up, when Ryan walked in. Same time as always. Shoes already tied. But something was different. The smile on his face was not the same one from the week before. It was quieter, more real, less like a mask, and more like a kid who had slept a little better over the weekend. He went through warm-ups. He talked to his teammates. He argued with someone over who had the better pull-up jumper, and laughed when the other kid actually hit a tough shot to prove his point. At the end of practice, as everyone was heading out, Ryan walked past Coach Ray and stopped for just a moment. He did not make a whole speech about it. He just said, "Thanks, Coach." Coach Ray nodded once. Kept it short, "Come early Wednesday." "I want to work on your footwork." Ryan said okay and walked out. That was it. No big moment, no dramatic resolution, just a kid who had been quietly drowning all week, and a coach who noticed, and a brother who showed up, and a Saturday morning in a driveway where nobody fixed anything, but somehow, something got a little lighter. Not every problem has a clean answer. Some things you carry for a long time, but there is a difference between carrying something alone and carrying it knowing that someone else sees it. Ryan still thought about his father. He probably would for years. That kind of thing does not go away just because someone sat with you in a driveway for an hour. That is not how any of this works. But carrying something heavy is different when the weight is spread. Even a little. Even just knowing that his brother was one phone call away, that Coach Ray had eyes on him, that people were not fooled by the performance he had been putting on all week. That alone changed something in him. He started being a little more honest after that. Not in a big way, not overnight. But when things got hard, he did not disappear into that tight, polished version of himself quite so fast. He let a few cracks show. He sat with his teammates during breaks, instead of drifting off. He texted Danny sometimes, just short messages, nothing dramatic, and Danny always wrote back. Coach Ray never brought it up again. He did not need to. That was not what the phone call had been about. It had not been about making Ryan talk to him. It had been about getting Ryan to someone he already trusted. Coach Ray understood his own role clearly. He was not the person who could fix this. He was just the person who noticed something was wrong and refused to look away. That distinction matters more than most people realize. You do not always have to be the one with the answers. Sometimes the most important thing you can do is just refuse to pretend you did not see what you saw. Pick up the phone. Say something simple. Get the right person involved. That is what a good coach does. That is what a good person does. And that kid, that quiet 14-year-old who had been holding it together so perfectly all week, never forgot it.